So to sum up what we've learned in topic 1, we're using BlueJ to write our Java code. We're using the book projects because they have pre-existing Java code we can work with while we learn how to code Java. When we open a project, the classes are shown in this window. A class is a template for an object. To create an object, we right-click on the class, we select the new part of the menu. If it requires a parameter, we pass one. We give the object or the instance a name. The name is always lower camel case. The name of the class is upper camel case. We can create multiple objects from the same class. A class is like a template. We can create multiple objects from the same class. If we want to have a look at the code for the class, we double-click on it. At the top of the class, we have our instance variables or our fields, which we'll talk about more in topic 2. We talked about data types that our instance variables can have. They can be an int, which is a whole number. They can be a string, which is some text. They can be a double, which is a number with a decimal point, or they could be a boolean, which is true or false. Classes also have methods. Methods have a method name, a return type, and parameters. The parameters go in the brackets if the method contains parameters. To call a method, we right-click on the object. If it has a return type, it will return something. If it requires parameters, we have to pass parameters. When we call a method, we call it by using the object name, then the method name. We use the terminal window so we can see when our objects are created, the code that is written. And so we can see how our methods are called. One thing I didn't mention is options. We can clear the terminal if we want to. Options clear. Another thing that I didn't mention, which I should have mentioned in an earlier video, is we can view the state of an object by right-clicking on it and going inspect. Remember, the state is stored in the variables, the instance variables or the fields of the object. They store the state of the object. So when I inspect the object, I can see what its state is, what the values of its variables are. Remember, every object has its own state, because when we create an object, we take a copy of the class, so every object has its own instance variables and its own methods. When I call the getPrice method on this object, and when I call the getPrice method on this object, they are different. Every object gets its own copy of its instance variables, and every object gets its own copy of its methods. So we're going to move on next in topic 2. We're going to talk more about classes and how they work, and we'll start talking about constructors. That's what we do when we say new ticket machine. We're calling the constructor, and we'll talk about that in the next topic.